Hey everyone, so as part of our work in covering Principle 5, Challenging the Food Police, we had to do a special breakout section specifically on perfectionism. In disordered eating, perfectionism tends to be one of the driving thought beliefs that we see a lot in our clinics, and it becomes one of the things that we have to work hardest to overcome. Perfectionism is this self-protective mechanism that posits if I do everything exactly perfectly, if I eat perfect, look perfect, think perfect, act perfect, do everything without flaw, then that will help me escape shame, blame, judgment, people thinking poorly of me. It's this idea that if we can control everything, we can also control how others perceive us. And so perfectionism becomes this way to try and protect ourselves from hurt from other people and from ourselves. So the way this shows up in eating is specifically around belief systems that the perfect foods, the perfect exercise, the exact amount of this nutrient or that nutrient, the exact amount of this or that type of exercise or this or that type of exercise program is gonna somehow help somebody execute and create the perfect body, the perfect health, and be able to control that within, their ability to do so. The problem with trying to do everything perfectly is that you have to control your thoughts, control your feelings, you have to control your environment, you have to control your social settings, you have to control your work or family or academic obligations. Everything around you has to be manipulated in order for these things to be never disturbed, in order for the foods to be exactly the way you need them all the time. In the case of disordered eating, it typically looks like funneling and funneling and funneling and getting more and more specific with what food or exercise needs to look like for you to feel like you're releasing or getting rid of any fears that you have associated with this. The regimen is so extreme at some point that it becomes you become unable to keep it up. Because you have to change so much of your life in order to protect that. And that's where perfectionism has taken over your life. And it has, in the realm of disordered eating, made it impossible for you to healthfully engage in a self-care activity that is literally required for your survival. So perfectionism, above all other thought belief systems, can be the most damaging and the hardest for our clients to overcome. So I wanted to go over a few different ways to start challenging some perfectionistic thoughts in your mind. And the first is really identifying thought distortions. When you really find yourself caught up in the moment, if you are in front of a meal and feeling like, I absolutely cannot eat this. This is so so outside the realm of what I allow myself to do. I physically can't do this. This is where either, if you feel like you're in a place for it, you can really troubleshoot that thought and say, wait a second, I'm feeling really activated by this food. Can I challenge this thought distortion that this meal has to look like this? Or could I maybe be a little bit more flexible and allow myself to believe that maybe my meal could look a little bit differently and I would still be okay? When that type of thinking becomes really hard to engage in, that's really when we start to enlist the help of professionals, working with dietitians, working with therapists, and working with other people that can help you really push yourself and challenge yourself on these types of thought distortions so you can get back to a regular relationship with food. The next way you can really overcome perfectionism is getting into a mindset of process thinking as opposed to product thinking. Perfectionism is all about the outcome. This plus this plus this equals this. When you're struggling to feel like this next particular decision may or may not impact your outcome or what you think is, what you're looking to gain out of your relationship to food, exercise, etc., what you want to work on is reframing this into a process of growth, of learning, of experimentation, of curiosity. This meal feels challenging to me and it doesn't really fit with what I'm looking for, I think, but let me just eat it and see how it goes and see if I have a different experience than I think I'm gonna have. And again, the help of professionals to walk you through that, or maybe even to have supportive places to practice those types of meals will be really helpful in overcoming perfectionism in the long term. A huge feature of perfectionism has to do with I should, I'm supposed to, I need to, I cannot miss, these real absolutist thoughts. So the next way to start overcoming or working on perfectionism is to replace absolutist terms with more flexible terms. It's possible, I might, it's okay if I, and work on more flexible thinking and challenging some of the fears that come up by trialing, again, with the support of people if you need it, but trialing things that bring you a little bit of fear and then assessing afterwards. Was that really as bad as I thought, or actually could this potentially be okay? Maybe it means that, if you skip something that you should do or you're supposed to do, if you skip it this one particular time or you change it in one particular way, does that really mean that the whole house of cards is going to come down? And I think that's a good place to work in therapy as well, and exploring alternative behaviors and alternative outcomes to the ways that you change these behaviors. A final piece that I want to cover on overcoming perfectionism has to do with distress tolerance. And of course, we want to try and create a place where we feel safe, we feel good, we feel happy, we feel content. But sometimes, the world and our environment and our obligations create situations that we can't fully control and we can't manage. And there's going to be some level of discomfort. There's going to be anger, frustration, exasperation, annoyance, boredom. There might even be grief, depending on what the situation is. And a lot of times perfectionism kicks in as the defense mechanism to deal with the discomfort and to say, like, if all of this discomfort and poor feelings are happening to me, I at least have control over this. And if I change this and change this and change this, it will help me feel better. It will help me feel in control. And the reality is, if you're allowing perfectionism to come in and sweep your thoughts and feelings and really numb you out to the experiences that are happening around you, you're missing the opportunity to actually learn and resolve and grow from those types of situations, and really find other ways to cope and potentially provide yourself acts of self-care that actually better address those feelings, as opposed to, going to food and exercise and that kind of disordered relationship with food all the time as a way to manage it. So working on maybe the negative feelings in life, they might feel overwhelming when they come up, but the better that we're able to really see them as signs and see them as ways to learn and grow, those become teaching moments for us in our lives, and they make us stronger in the end. And perfectionism, I think, can be a temporary solution. Sometimes things are so bad that perfectionism really does become a way to survive it. But when you have the opportunity and when you have the support and trust of people around you, working on ways to create stress tolerance and distress tolerance and be able to find new self-care activities to help with those feelings is really going to be a more long-term and sustainable path. So I hope some of these thoughts on dealing with perfectionism and taking that on in the realm of food help with different ideas and strategies you can use moving forward, and maybe some things that you can bring into therapy or talk with a nutrition professional to help you on a better path to food and more enjoyable relationship to it over the long haul. So keep us posted. Let us know what you think in the comments, and stay tuned. We're going to be continuing on with our intuitive eating series next week.